On the free agent market, things have largely dried up. You've still got some things to work out with the restricted free agency. We got into Jonathan Kuminga last week. Josh Giddey's out there, Quentin Grimes, all these guys. I'm going to guess. I mean, Kuminga may be the outlier, but these other guys are probably going to wind up figuring out short-term deals with their team. The one intriguing name to me that's still out there is Russell Westbrook, who declined a player option in Denver to hit free agency this summer. Had a pretty good year with the Nuggets last year, 75 games. Still very durable, averaged 13.3 points, about 5 rebounds per game. He is not expected to command anything more than the vet minimum salary from whatever team he signs with. So what do you make of Russ still being unsigned? And do you think there's any chance that we get into training camp and he's still a free agent?
Maybe. I mean, we've heard rumors, right, of teams that do have some interest. It's not as if it's, a completely dead market. And you just pointed out, he played all of those games with the Nuggets. More importantly, he started 37 of those games. More importantly, he got the cosign of Nikola Jokic. So the stink of how the Lakers situation fell apart, and then the Clippers situation didn't fall apart, but they clearly didn't want him back. I think that is off him to a degree, that there is a feeling now if you get him in the right situation, he can actually help your team, because he very specifically helped the Nuggets last year. It has to be the right team though, right? So we've heard versions of the Sacramento Kings having interest in him. I don't really understand that because they have so many guards sitting around. And I wouldn't really understand that on Russ's side, because the thing Russ wants to do, especially if he's taking a vet minimum, is play, right? He wants to be able to play. And he feels he showed that last year. Again, 37 starts, that he can still play. And if not as a starter, as the primary backup. So when someone gets hurt, as inevitably always happens, he can jump in there and start. And that even when he doesn't, he'll get a lot of minutes coming up from the bench and leading that bench unit, which, by the way, he's very valuable doing. He's a fantastic leader still on the court, energizer, all of those things. The interesting party to me is the New York Knicks, because they have been reported to have interest. I don't know if that will eventually blossom into offering him a contract, but that's a team that needs a guy like him, that actually has a slot for a guy like him. I think he would flourish in New York. I think New York fans would love him. And I think he would be able to fill that sort of vet energy role really well. They just got to get the rest of the guys on the team to sign on, because this is not a decision that a front office makes alone.
Yeah, I think the Knicks signing Jordan Clarkson took them out of play.
You think so?
I do. They've got Tyler Kolek there. They've got Deuce McBride there. I think getting Clarkson to be that kind of Russish type of player, because that's kind of what he is, I think that took the Knicks off the board. My understanding...
I thought they were still looking, but you would know better than me.
Yeah, I think that's... Maybe they're on the list, but I think they're far down the list.
Okay.
I still think at the top of the list is Sacramento. I agree with you. Currently, Sacramento is not a roster that needs a Russell Westbrook, but the Kings are still in play for Kuminga. And my belief is if the Kings pull off a Kuminga deal, it's probably going to involve Malik Monk, being moved.
Sure.
And if you move Monk, all of a sudden you've got some room for a player like Russ. Russ can do some of the things that Malik did as a bench player, multi-position. So I think that's the one to watch the closest. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. The more time passes, the more likely I think Kuminga comes to some kind of short-term deal with Golden State, and at least for now is back with the Warriors, going into next season. But if a Kings deal comes together, I can see that happening. There are other teams out there that make some sense. Like Phoenix is still looking for help at the guard spot. Indiana with no Halliburton needs some help. Milwaukee, we talked about them. They could just try something, hit the Russell Westbrook break glass in case of emergency button, and see if that works out with him playing alongside Giannis. You've heard some talk about a reunion with Durant in Houston. I doubt that, but
I don't see that happening.
That would be fascinating. The problem is, when I bring up Russ to teams, and I actually really like Russ. I don't want to just say this, I think his competitiveness is contagious. I think he's a great teammate. His surliness with the media, his public perception is built off a lot of scar tissue from his time in Oklahoma City. Basically, or even going back to UCLA when there were a lot of skeptics about him. His ability to play point guard, his ability to be a starter, all the things he overcame. Even go back to the finals. Didn't Magic Johnson call him the worst finals point guard ever? You were at the ESPN back then, didn't he? Did he
Something
beat
to
him
that
up?
effect.
Yeah, something like even at his apex, he's taken arrows from an all-time great like Magic Johnson. But what it boils down to is I think he's a good locker room guy and can deliver in the regular season. This brings me to my point that teams bring up to me all the time. Like his postseason numbers, Rachel, have been really, really bad. You look at this past postseason run with Denver, 39% from the floor, 32% from three. Year before that, postseason, 26% from the floor, 23.5 from three. Season before that, 41%, 35%. Season before that, 33%, 25%. Like his numbers go down in the postseason. I'm not even bringing up the turnovers, which are not great either, and some of the decision making, which is not great as well. Like when teams are looking at this saying, look, he's certainly someone that can be like, a middle reliever in baseball. He can eat some innings up for us, during the regular season, but we can't count on him in the playoffs. We can't play him extended minutes in the playoffs. So that to me is what's working against Russ right now. And it is a pretty reasonable take, I think, from teams that are looking at options. Do we sign a Russell Westbrook, or do we keep a spot open? Do we go with a two-way guy, or do we go with a cheaper alternative, someone we can develop? Like there's just a lot of other options, I think, for teams that don't badly need a Russell Westbrook. I do think, to bring it full circle, I do think he signs somewhere. We'll see what happens with Sacramento. I can certainly see Phoenix taking a flyer. I could even see Milwaukee taking a flyer. I'm not sure about Indiana, what they want to do with this group, but I could see a veteran team that's trying to win regular season games bringing Westbrook in, because I think he can still help with that. I think the jury's out, though, whether he can be an impactful player in the playoffs. That's just kind of become, the numbers don't lie, and they are what they are.
So you're saying this is a can't play Cantor situation?
Oh, the old Billy line. I don't think it's quite as bad, because I think Russ, when he's motivated, can be a decent defender. The can't play Cantor was like, he's just a turnstile out there. Sorry, Ennis, I do like you too, but like, there's, I don't think he's quite at that level, but when the shooting numbers are low 40s, high 30s, low 30s, high 20s, like the math doesn't math, and that is going to make it tough.
Well, here's the thing Russ has to decide, frankly, that LeBron has to decide. Some of these guys who have stayed in the game because A, fitness and sort of health has been revolutionized in their time in the NBA, and they can actually play so much longer. And B, because the salaries are so high, guys are very reluctant to walk away from them, is that you now have this generation of once great players who are playing at an age that we didn't quite expect them to, right? We did not, as great as LeBron is, as durable as he's been, nobody was predicting, including LeBron himself, by the way, because I remember talking to him about this when he sort of hit 30. No one thought that he'd be playing at age 41, which he will be by the end of this season. And Russ, we all talked about for years, his game isn't going to age very well, right? Because it's built on athleticism. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, they can shoot, until they're 60. That's going to age well. Russ's game isn't going to age well, but here Russell Westbrook still is. And I agree with you. Somebody is going to sign him this year. And the issue for these guys who are now sort of in this uncharted position is, if you're going to stay in at this age that most people don't, whether it's, LeBron, as old as LeBron or younger, but, maxing out your particular playing window, what do you really want, right? If you're LeBron, do you want the absolute max salary? And if that is what you want, you probably won't get re-signed with the Lakers after this last season is done, because they don't want to give him that. Would you want to stay with the Lakers more than anything because your life is in LA now and you're willing to take less money and less minutes and sort of, play a very different role than you ever have in your career? Is Russell Westbrook someone who at this point, I want to stay in it, I want to keep hooping, I want to play basketball? And is that a situation where he would feel comfortable doing that during the regular season, but largely being off the court for key moments in the playoffs? These guys just have to decide. Vince Carter, I thought, was a really interesting situation because he was so sure and so explicit about what he wanted to do. You remember that there was a time where the Warriors, when they were the Warriors with Kevin and Steph, had interest in signing Vince, right? He could be that end of the bench kind of, locker room leader, and it could be a way of finally getting Vince a ring and all of that stuff. And he very pointedly didn't want that. He said, I want to play basketball. I don't care about a ring as much as I care about the joy I get from playing basketball. And he signed with all these, frankly, terrible teams that just wanted Vince Carter on their roster so he could extend his playing career. Russ has to decide what he wants and what he's willing to do to stay in the game. And LeBron has to decide that as well. And once those guys reach that decision, they can much more effectively steer their own careers into where they want it to be. And in Russ's case, maybe whether he stays in the league or not depends on what kind of role he's willing to accept.
Yeah, I don't even know if it may have been at that point a few years ago, like after, let's say Washington, but I think we're just past that. I think teams, like even if he came in and said, I'm willing to just be a regular season guy, don't play me in the playoffs. I just don't think teams are looking at him like that anymore. I mean, LeBron's interesting too, in that, like, is LeBron going to get $60 million from somebody next year? Like, is any team out there going to pay LeBron? And look, I preface this by saying LeBron is worth every nickel of the whatever amount of money he's making because he sells tickets. He drives ratings.
He's going to be underpaid for as many years as he plays.
I just don't know if a team's going to be out there saying, like, I can commit, X percent of my salary cap that to a guy that may be a third option on my team.
I don't think there's any question someone will. It just probably won't be somewhere he wants to play.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There will be teams out there that sort of say, we don't know what we're doing right now. We don't have anything going right now. Man, it sure be great to get LeBron James in here. He could win us some games and he sells tickets. But those aren't going to be the teams that are in contention to make the NBA Finals and win the NBA Finals. So again, he just has to decide, does he want to go out on top, quote unquote, being a key member of the Los Angeles Lakers rotation, giving it one last go to win a title this year, earning $50 million until, forever, and then retire and go into the sunset and maybe play in this European situation that Maverick is instituting, which, by the way, is going to be very attractive to some of these guys. It's not a full league season. It's show up for a week or two in exotic locations around the country, play some games, go back home for a while, and then decide later, okay, in a month or two, am I going to play the next event? So that could be appealing, and that could sort of be his gentle exit out of the NBA. But they have to decide, what do you want? Because the options available to you are not everything. And for a guy like LeBron, who is used to his option being everything, everyone wants him. Everyone would pay him the max. Everyone would kill to have him on their team. That doesn't exist anymore. And that's not disrespectful to him. It's just literally what happens. You can't be, despite the Nike commercials, you can't beat Father Time.
Hey, he can always follow in the footsteps of the only man that is his peer, and that is Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And finish his career in Washington.
The Washington Wizards, baby.
They have the cap space. They can offer.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.